Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Ready for another fascinating topic?
Always.
Today, we're diving into something that's becoming more and more important every day as AI gets, well, smarter.
Uh-oh, should we be worried?
Maybe, maybe not. But that's what this deep dive is all about.
Uh,
How do we make sure our AI helpers, don't accidentally go rogue?
Go rogue.
Yeah, in our digital lives.
Okay.
Think about it.
Okay.
You give your AI, like your assistant, permission to book a flight.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you ensure it doesn't accidentally book you a one-way ticket to Antarctica
Oh, no.
instead of like that tropical vacation you were dreaming of?
That's a great way to put it. It's all about control, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like how we can set those boundaries, those clear boundaries for AI as it's, starting to handle more and more of our online tasks.
Totally. And that's exactly what we'll be exploring in this deep dive. We're unpacking a research paper
Oh, cool.
called Authenticated Delegation and Authorized AI Agents.
Catchy.
I know, right? But it proposes this framework for giving you, the user, more control over what your AI can and cannot do.
That sounds pretty crucial. I mean, especially as these AI agents become more, well, powerful.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the really interesting thing is that it actually builds on technologies that you probably already use today.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, remember how you can log into websites using like your Google or Facebook account?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It makes life so much easier.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this framework uses similar tech, but with a bit of a twist. Instead of you logging in,
Okay.
it's your AI agent doing it.
Interesting.
And you're giving it very specific permission
Mm-hmm.
to access certain things on your behalf.
Got it.
And the paper calls this authenticated delegation.
So it's like, I don't know, like giving your AI a limited power of attorney
Exactly.
for your digital life.
Yeah. But instead of a lawyer drawing up a complicated document, it all happens digitally,
I see.
using these secure tokens and permissions.
Okay, so no more lawyers.
No more lawyers,
Gotcha.
at least not for this.
Well, maybe not yet.
Okay, so tell me about how this whole system works.
Sure. So the framework really focuses on three key things.
Okay.
Authentication, authorization,
Okay.
and auditability.
So those are the three pillars.
Yeah, you could say that. So first up, authentication.
Okay.
This is all about confirming identities, like making sure that it's really you giving the instructions.
Right.
And that the AI agent is who it claims to be.
So no imposters allowed.
No imposter.
Got it. What about authorization?
So this is where things get interesting. This is where you as the user actually get to set those limits,
Okay.
right? Like, can the AI access your bank account?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Right. And even then, only up to a certain amount
Okay.
can it book flights, only round trips.
Right, so you really define the scope.
Exactly. You define the scope of what your AI helper is allowed to do.
It's like setting up those digital guardrails
I like that, digital guardrail.
to keep your AI on track. And what about auditability then?
Okay, so auditability,
Yeah.
this is all about accountability. Think of it as like a digital paper trail.
Okay.
It basically keeps track of everything the AI agent does.
Oh, I
So
see.
you can always come back and double check its actions.
Like a receipt for everything the AI did?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And make sure that it's staying within, the boundaries that you set.
So if my AI does book that flight to Antarctica,
Uh-oh.
I at least have proof that it wasn't me.
Mm.
But, I mean, why is all of this so important? Are there, like, real-world examples where things have gone wrong without these safeguards?
Absolutely. There are definitely concerns. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Imagine an AI agent that's designed to help doctors diagnose patients.
That sounds really useful, though.
Super useful, right? Could be a game changer for healthcare.
Yeah.
But without those clear limitations we were just talking about,
Yeah.
that same AI might start accessing sensitive patient information that it's, really not equipped to handle.
Oh, that's a scary thought.
And that's when things could get really, really messy, right?
Mm.
So this framework is all about,
Yeah.
making sure AI is used responsibly and that it doesn't overstep its bounds.
So protecting those human spaces online.
Exactly. And making sure that AI agents behave appropriately in different situations.
Like knowing their place, so to speak.
You got it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Good.
So we've got the why covered,
Mm-hmm.
but how does this authenticated delegation thing actually work in practice?
Well, the researchers behind this paper, they're pretty clever. They're
Okay.
not reinventing the wheel or anything.
Okay, good.
Instead, they're building upon those existing technologies.
Like the login with Google.
Yeah, like we were just talking about. Remember those?
Yeah.
So it's not like some crazy, complicated new technology that, no one understands.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. It uses a system of digital tokens to ensure, security and verify those permissions.
Okay, break it down for me.
Right.
What are these tokens,
Okay.
and how do they all fit together?
There are basically three main types of tokens. First up, you've got your ID token.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same one that you use like when you log in with your Google account.
Got it.
This authenticates you, the human user.
Okay, makes sense.
Then there's the agent ID token.
Agent ID.
Yeah, this one identifies the AI agent and its capabilities. Think of it like a digital passport
Okay.
for your AI.
So it's like my AI is going through airport security,
Exactly.
but for the digital world.
For the digital world. And then finally, there's the delegation token.
Delegation token.
This is like the most important one. This
Okay.
token basically specifies exactly what permissions you have given to your AI agent.
So it's like a very, very specific set of instructions
Very much.
for my AI.
Yeah, you got it.
And because all of these tokens are linked together securely, it creates that clear chain of responsibility.
Exactly.
And who granted the permissions and what the AI is allowed to do.
Makes sense.
It's a clever way to keep everything secure and transparent. But I mean, I have to ask, defining those permissions in a way that an AI agent can understand.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredibly difficult? I mean, we humans are complex.
Yeah.
How do you translate like our sometimes vague instructions into something that an AI can actually follow?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It is a tough one. I mean, how do we make sure our AI helpers don't misinterpret what we're saying
Right.
and end up doing something, completely unexpected?
Yeah, like in that Air Canada chatbot case we were talking about before, the airline tried to say they weren't responsible for what their chatbot told customers
Oh, really?
because it was just a machine.
Wow. That's a classic example of how the legal world is, trying to catch up with the reality of AI.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
It is. And the judge in that case actually didn't buy it.
Really?
Yeah. They said the chatbot was basically an extension of the company.
So they were held accountable.
They were. Air Canada was liable for its actions.
Wow. So you can't just hide behind the it's a computer excuse anymore.
Not really, no. And that's where this framework we're discussing, this authenticated delegation idea, becomes even more important, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not just about the technical nuts and bolts, right? But about establishing those clear lines of responsibility.
Right. As AI gets more involved.
Exactly, as it plays a larger role in all of our lives.
So how does it actually address that legal gray area, like those chatbot situations?
Well, think about those digital tokens we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Especially that delegation token, the one that outlines the specific permissions you've given to your AI agent.
Right. Like the AI's instructions.
Exactly. Those tokens, along with the audit logs that keep track of everything the AI does, they essentially create like a digital paper trail.
Okay.
So if a question ever comes up, right,
Yeah.
about whether an AI agent acted within its bounds, you can go back and look at this whole trail of information
I see.
and see, what permissions were actually granted
So it's all there.
and whether the agent overstepped its authority.
So it's kind of like having a digital contract.
That's a great way to put it.
That spells out everything.
Yeah.
The agreement between you and your AI agent.
It brings a lot of clarity, I think,
Yeah.
and transparency
Humanity, for sure.
to those interactions between humans and AI.
Well, and it seems like that kind of clarity
Yeah.
is exactly what a lot of, existing laws about electronic transactions are trying to get at, right?
You're absolutely right. There are already legal frameworks out there
Yeah.
that can kind of help us navigate this new world
Right.
of AI-powered interactions.
Yeah.
And the paper specifically mentions one,
Oh, which one?
the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act.
Okay, the UADA.
Yeah, the UETA for short.
Okay, remind me what that's all about.
So the UETA, it doesn't actually specifically address AI,
Okay.
but it does lay the groundwork, I think,
Oh, cool.
for trust and reliability in the digital realm.
So like a foundation.
Yeah, exactly. It emphasizes, how important it is to have these agreed upon security procedures,
Right.
protocols to ensure that electronic transactions,
Right.
like the ones that involve AI agents,
Yeah.
really do reflect the intent of everyone involved.
Ah, Okay, so it's about making sure that these automated processes are trustworthy
That's it.
and that people can actually rely on them.
Precisely. And the authenticated delegation
Yeah.
framework, the one we've been talking about,
Yeah.
it actually aligns really nicely with those principles.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because it establishes that clear chain of authority for AI agents,
Yeah.
those digital tokens, the
Yeah.
audit trails.
Yeah.
It basically creates a more
Right.
robust and transparent
For
system.
those AI transactions.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
electronic transactions involving AI.
So it's adding that layer of accountability
Exactly.
and trust, which is what the UEDA wants for everything, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And there's another crucial point that I think both the UADA and just like the broader legal landscape are starting to recognize:
Okay, what's that?
the importance of human oversight,
Oh, right.
especially when it comes to those, big decisions.
Yeah, yeah. Even as AI agents get more capable,
Right.
it's important to have a human in the loop.
Absolutely. Especially when the stakes are high.
Yeah.
We don't want, AI making life-altering decisions
All right.
without any human input.
That's a scary thought.
It is. And this framework really supports that idea
Okay.
by clearly defining, the roles
Hmm.
of both the human user and the AI agent.
So everyone knows their place.
Exactly. It makes it clear who's ultimately responsible for which actions,
Okay.
and make sure that, we as humans
Yeah.
have the ability to step in, verify those decisions.
Right, double check.
Yeah. And make corrections if we need to.
So it's about striking a balance
Exactly.
between, leveraging the power of AI,
Hmm.
but also maintaining that human control.
It's a partnership, isn't it?
It is. Not a takeover.
Not a takeover. And as we move further, I think, into this world of
Yeah.
increasingly autonomous AI systems.
Right, they're only going to get more capable.
They are.
Yeah.
Having those clear lines of authority and responsibility, it's going to be, I think, more critical than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm curious, for you, what stood out to you most about this whole concept of authenticated delegation?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I think the focus on practicality.
Oh, interesting.
The researchers aren't, trying to create some futuristic, crazy system
Okay.
that no one, understands or can use.
Right.
They're taking things that we already have.
Yeah.
Things like those login with Google
Yeah. Things we're familiar with.
that we all use,
Yeah.
and adapting them to this new challenge of,
Mhm.
managing AI agents.
So it's a very grounded approach.
I think so. And it kind of sparks, I think, a lot of new questions.
Oh, like what?
Well, the paper focuses mostly on individuals, granting permissions to their AI agents.
Yeah.
But what happens when we start thinking bigger
Oh.
about AI agents interacting with each other?
Whoa. AI to AI.
Right. Imagine companies have their own AI agents
Right.
that are, negotiating deals, managing resources,
Making decisions.
making huge decisions that, impact entire industries.
That's like taking this whole concept of authenticated delegation
Right.
and scaling it up massively.
Exactly. And it raises some really fascinating challenges, I think.
Like what?
Well, how do you establish that trust
Yeah.
between AI agents? How do you verify their identities?
Yeah, yeah. And the permissions would be
Right. And how do you even begin to manage that complexity of permissions and delegation?
when there's multiple AIs involved.
Exactly. It's a whole other layer.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like the Wild West out there.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. But let's bring it back to the core of this framework for a second.
Okay.
You know how they actually define those permissions?
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier called structured permission languages, right?
I did.
So this is where it gets a bit technical,
Okay.
but it's important, so stick with me.
Right.
The researchers argue that just relying on natural language,
Okay.
the way we humans talk,
Right.
that's inherently risky
Oh, why is that?
because language can be ambiguous.
Oh, right. Different interpretations.
Exactly. What might seem perfectly clear to you
Yeah.
could be interpreted very differently by an AI.
Right. Because they don't think like we do.
They don't. So, for example,
Yeah,
if
but-
you tell your AI to,
Yeah.
find you the cheapest flight to Paris,
Hmm.
it might book you on a flight with like 10 layovers and a 3-day travel time.
Oh, no. Not exactly the romantic getaway I had in mind.
Right. Not ideal. And the consequences, of course, could be much more serious,
Yeah.
depending on the task at hand.
For sure. For sure.
That's why they propose using what are called structured permission languages,
Okay.
which are essentially formal languages
Mhm.
designed to be, unambiguous
Okay.
and easily understood by machines.
So it's like taking the guesswork out.
Exactly. It's about creating a more precise and reliable way to
Ah.
communicate those limitations to the AI.
So the AI knows exactly what's allowed.
You got it. But you also mentioned,
Yeah.
that natural language is still part of this whole thing.
I did.
So how do they reconcile those two things?
Right. That's what I'm curious about.
Well, they suggest a kind of hybrid approach, I guess,
Okay.
combining the best of both worlds, really.
Okay. How so?
So the idea is to let you, the user, express those instructions
Mm.
in natural language, right?
Yeah, because that's what we're good at.
Which is, of course, much easier for us.
Yeah.
But then use another AI system
Right.
to translate those instructions into that more formal, structured permission language.
Wait, so the AI is helping to create the rules that will govern its own behavior.
It's kind of a paradox, isn't it?
It is. It's a very
Mhm.
interesting idea.
It is, and the paper really emphasizes that, you, the human user, have to review and approve those
Right.
translated rules before the AI is allowed to do anything.
Oh, okay, so there's still that human check
Absolutely.
to make sure that nothing gets lost in translation.
Human oversight is critical, yeah.
Okay, that's good.
And they even go a bit further, actually,
Wow.
suggesting that these structured permissions should focus primarily on what they call resource scoping.
Resource scoping, okay.
Remember what that is?
Remind me.
So it's all about defining
Yeah.
what data, systems, or tools the AI agent is allowed to access.
Okay.
So instead of trying to, list out every possible action
Right.
the AI can or can't do,
Yeah.
you're basically just defining the boundary.
Okay, of its access.
Yeah, of its access.
So it's like, if it can't access my financial accounts, no matter how cleverly I word my instructions, it can't accidentally spend my money.
Exactly. It's like setting up a fence around a playground.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. You're not dictating every little thing the kids can do,
Yeah,
but you're creating a safe space for them to play within.
that makes a lot of sense. And it seems like this would also make it much easier to keep track of the AI's actions later on,
It does.
because you have this clear record of,
Mhm.
what it accessed.
Yeah, you know exactly what it was allowed to touch.
So it simplifies both setting those permissions
Right.
and monitoring the AI.
It's a win-win, really.
It is. But the paper did mention some alternative approaches
Oh, right.
to this whole permission thing,
Yeah.
like something called schema validation.
Schema validation. That's another really interesting one.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Well, this approach is actually used in a lot of systems today, even those that don't, involve AI.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So imagine you have this blueprint
Yeah.
that basically outlines the structure and rules
Mm-hmm.
for certain types of data.
Okay.
Let's say, for example,
Yeah.
the AI is working with customer data. There's a schema that specifies,
Yeah.
what fields are allowed, the format of those fields, and all of that.
So it's like a very, very strict set of rules
Yeah, very
for how that data can be handled.
Exactly. And the idea is that the AI's actions or outputs
Mm-hmm.
have to conform perfectly to that schema.
So it's like, if it tries to do something outside those boundaries,
Yeah,
it gets blocked.
exactly. It's a more, I guess you could say, rigid way
Okay.
of controlling what the AI can do.
So more control, but less flexibility.
It is. It's very deterministic, and it's very easily auditable,
Mm-hmm.
but it might not be ideal for every single situation.
Right. So it seems like there's this trade-off
Yeah,
between the flexibility of natural language,
right.
which is, how we're used to communicating.
Mm-hmm. It's how we think.
Yeah. And then the precision
Yeah.
and security of these more structured approaches.
That's a great observation. And I think the researchers actually acknowledge that trade-off. They suggest that the best approach might involve a combination of things,
Oh, interesting.
using, those structured methods as the foundation
For security.
for security, auditability, all of that, but also providing more user-friendly interfaces
Right.
that allow for, natural language instructions.
So find that sweet spot.
Yeah. It's all about finding the right balance.
It does feel like finding that balance is going to be really, really important as, AI agents get more and more sophisticated.
Absolutely. Especially as they become more integrated into our lives.
Right. Even with all of these safeguards, those tokens, the permissions, those audit trails.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still this fundamental question of trust, isn't there?
There is.
Can we really, rely on AI systems
Yeah.
to act responsibly, especially as they're becoming more autonomous?
You've hit the nail on the head.
Haven't I?
That's the core issue, really. We're essentially entrusting these AI agents with, parts of our digital lives.
Yeah, it's scary.
It is a bit. And the paper actually makes a really interesting point
Oh,
about the role of model vendors in all of this.
model vendors. Remind me who those are again?
Right. So they're basically the companies that develop these increasingly powerful AI systems.
Okay, so like the big players in the AI field.
Yeah, think of them, yeah.
Okay, got it. So what's their responsibility in all of this then?
Well, the paper argues that they have a responsibility to, build these systems
Hmm.
with security and accountability in mind from the very beginning.
Oh.
It's not just about creating the most cutting edge AI, right?
That's-
It's about making sure that it can be used safely and responsibly.
So, like, are they suggesting that these companies should actually build features like those login with Google systems directly into their AI products?
That's one idea. They could integrate systems like OpenID Connect,
Hmm.
which is, the technology behind those login with Google buttons
Right.
directly into their AI system.
Oh.
Or they could provide, verifiable credentials
Okay.
users can then use to establish trust and set permissions for their AI agents.
So it's like building in those safety features right from the start.
Exactly.
But what about those situations where, AI systems aren't developed by these big tech companies?
Mhm.
What about like individuals or smaller organizations that are building and deploying AI?
Mm.
Can they still use this framework, this authenticated delegation?
Absolutely. The principles of this framework, I think, can be applied.
Okay.
No matter who developed the AI or where it's being used,
Okay.
organizations can leverage, their own existing security systems,
Mm.
create their own internal policies,
Right.
and build those custom permission controls
All right.
that are tailored to their specific needs.
So it's adaptable. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution for, just big tech.
Not at all. I think that's one of the really great things about this framework.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's flexible enough to be used in all sorts of different scenarios.
That's really reassuring to know. Actually,
Yeah.
it means we as users have the power to,
Yeah,
control these AI agents no matter where they come from.
you do.
But, we've been talking a lot about like the technical and legal aspects of all of this.
We have.
But what about the bigger picture?
Okay.
What does it actually mean for us as a society to be delegating tasks and decisions to,
Mm-hmm.
these increasingly capable AI agents?
That's a huge question, isn't it? I mean, it touches on everything.
It really does.
Trust, control, responsibility, even, our very understanding of what it means to be human in a world where AI is playing such a, an ever-expanding role.
Right. It's like we're entering this new era
It does feel that way.
where we're sharing our digital lives, maybe even parts of our physical lives, with these AI entities.
Yeah,
It's exciting, but also a little bit daunting, I think.
I completely agree. And I think it's so crucial that we keep having these conversations,
Mm.
that we really grapple with, those philosophical and societal implications of AI as it becomes more and more integrated into our world.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to end on, actually.
Good.
So I'll leave you, our listener, with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
We've talked about how this framework, this authenticated delegation idea, can empower you to control your own AI agents.
Mm-hmm.
But as AI becomes more prevalent, as AI agents start interacting with each other in even more complex ways,
Yeah.
how do we ensure that these principles of control and accountability actually scale up?
Right. It's a big question.
It is a big question. How do we make sure that human values, ethical considerations, those societal norms are woven into the fabric of these, increasingly complex AI systems?
It's a challenge, but it's also an incredible opportunity, I think,
I think so too.
to shape the future of AI in a way that benefits all of us.
A future worth thinking about, I'd say.
It is. And hopefully, this deep dive has given you some, new perspectives, some insights to consider, some food for thought.
Some food for thought. Exactly. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating exploration of authenticated delegation.
It's been a pleasure.
And we look forward to diving into more thought-provoking topics with you again soon.